Every time you open your browser, you are not just opening the internet. You are opening a map of your habits, your searches, your late-night impulses, your shopping hesitations, your medical questions, your routines, your fears. And for millions of people, that map begins in Chrome. That would be easier to ignore if Chrome were just a neutral tool, but it isn't. That's the contradiction most people never stop to face. The browser they trust to move through the web safely was built inside the largest advertising machine on Earth. And when the company behind that browser openly talks about giving browsers a larger role in advertising, personalization, identity, and fraud systems, you are no longer holding a simple window to the web. You are holding infrastructure. Google Privacy Sandbox. I didn't start digging into this because I wanted to become a privacy purist. I started because I got tired of the feeling that the web knew me a little too well. Search for one thing, and suddenly it follows you. Visit one product page, and the rest of your week starts echoing it back at you. Look up one problem in a moment of weakness, and the machine remembers. That is when I stopped treating the browser like wallpaper and started treating it like a gatekeeper. And the deeper I went, the stranger it got. Because Chrome doesn't te just bros. Once you sign in, it can tie your browsing environment into your Google account experience. Google's own support pages explain that when you sign into Chrome, you can sync bookmarks, passwords, and more across devices. And if web and app activity is on and Chrome history is synced, you can get a more personalized experience across other Google products. That is convenient. It is also exactly the kind of convenience that makes a surveillance system feel harmless. Google Chrome Help Now. Let me be precise, because this matters. I'm not saying Chrome is malware. I'm saying Chrome is a browser built in a world where data is money, behavior is product, and convenience is often the velvet glove that hides the hand underneath. If you want big tech to profile you less easily, the first move is not a VPN. It is not some dramatic dark web ritual. It is much simpler than that. You stop using the browser that was never really built to minimize that profiling in the first place. And when I started testing replacements, 3 names kept rising above the noise. Not because they promised invisibility, that's fantasy, but because each one, in a very different way, makes profiling harder, tracking weaker, and passive data collection more expensive for the people trying to do it. The first is Firefox. Firefox matters because it still represents something the modern web desperately needs. A major browser whose identity is not built around feeding an ad empire. Out of the box, Firefox enables enhanced tracking protection, and Mozilla says that by default it blocks social media trackers, cross-site tracking cookies, cryptometers, and fingerprinters, while also blocking tracking content in private windows. That sounds technical until you understand the real meaning. It means Firefox starts from the assumption that the web should not be allowed to quietly latch onto you and follow you from site to site like a shadow. Mozilla support. That is a very different philosophy from a browser designed inside an ecosystem where personalization is a feature, identity is a feature, ad measurement is a feature. And privacy often means controlling exposure without truly walking away from the model. What I like about Firefox is not that it tries to look extreme. It doesn't. It looks normal, familiar, stable. That is exactly why it is so dangerous to the system that thrives on resignation. Most people won't switch if switching feels like punishment. Firefox works because it lets you reclaim ground without feeling like you just moved into a bunker. It is a sane browser for normal people who are tired of being treated like inventory. But if Firefox is the disciplined adult in the room, the second browser is the one that walks in with the lights already on. Brave's whole pitch is that protection should not be an optional lifestyle project. It should be the default. On its Shields page, Brave says it blocks trackers, cross-site cookies, phishing, and fingerprinting protections by default, with no setup required. It also says it randomizes fingerprinting-related browser APIs. So sites have a harder time using your browser as an identifying signature. In plain English, Brave assumes the web is hostile until proven otherwise. Brave shields. That changes the feeling of browsing immediately. With Chrome, the web often feels like you're walking through a crowded market, while strangers quietly pin notes to your jacket. With Brave, you start hearing the pins hit the floor. Ads disappear. Trackers get blocked. The page loads cleaner, faster, less polluted. And that speed is not just a convenience bonus. It is evidence. The modern web has been stuffed with surveillance furniture for so long that when you remove it, you can feel the room breathe again. But here's the part that took me longer to appreciate. Brave is not just blocking the obvious things. It is fighting one of the ugliest tricks on the modern web. Fingerprinting. Cookies get all the attention because people can imagine them. Tiny files, stored information. Something you can delete. Fingerprinting is colder than that. It does not need permission pop-ups or stored crumbs. It looks at your browser setup, device, quirks, fonts, language settings, APIs, hardware hints, and other tiny signals, then tries to turn that mess into something close to a unique identity. Brave's answer is not perfection. Its answer is disruption. Make the fingerprint less stable, less reusable, less profitable. That is a very serious move. Brave shields, and then there's the third browser. The one that feels least like a mainstream product, and most like a deliberate act of refusal. Movad browser. If Firefox is practical resistance, and Brave is aggressive default defense, Movad browser is what happens when privacy engineers stop pretending the average browser can be casually tweaked into safety. Movad says directly that a VPN alone is not enough for privacy, because sites can still track you through cookies, scripts, and browser fingerprinting. Its browser, developed with the Tor project, is designed to minimize tracking and fingerprints, block third-party trackers, isolate third-party cookies during sessions, run in private mode by default so cookies are not saved between sessions, and remove telemetry entirely. Movad browser, that last part matters more than people think. No telemetry, no quiet little stream of helpful product improvement data dripping back upstream simply because you opened the app and existed inside it. Molvad's core philosophy is brutal and simple. Hide in the crowd, not by making every user look wildly customized and private, but by making users look more similar. That is the opposite of the modern personalization economy. Personalization wants a sharper portrait. Movad wants blur. That is why it feels different. It is not trying to give you a private experience as a marketing mood. It is trying to make identification harder at the structural level. Movad browser. Now, if you're wondering which one you should actually use, this is where the hidden system becomes practical. If you want the easiest escape from Chrome without changing your life, use Firefox. It is the smoothest transition. You get a familiar browser, real tracking protections, strong extension support, and a lower friction way to stop handing your everyday web life to Google by default. Firefox is the move for people who want sanity without drama. Mozilla support if you want stronger default blocking and a cleaner, harder-edged experience the moment you install it. Use Brave. This is the best option for people who are tired of the ad-soaked tracker-heavy web and want immediate relief. Brave feels like turning off a machine that had been humming in the walls for years. Brave shields if you care most about reducing fingerprinting and making yourself harder to single out. Especially when paired with good privacy habits. Use Movad browser. This is the one for people who understand that the threat is not just ads. It is classification, correlation, quiet identification at scale. Movad is not for everybody, but it was not built for everybody. It was built for resistance. Movad browser. And that brings me to the step most people skip. They change browsers, then bring their entire old identity right back into the new one. Same Google sign-in. Same always-on account sessions. Same dozens of extensions. Same browsing behavior. Same social logins everywhere. Same habit of storing their digital life inside ecosystems designed to know them intimately. A new browser helps. A new browser alone does not save you. So, here is the practical reset. First, choose one of the three and install it today. Not next week. Not after I clean up my tabs. Today. Second, make it your default browser and stop opening Chrome out of habit. Habits are where surveillance wins. Third, don't sign into everything at once. Be deliberate. If you move to Firefox or Brave and immediately live inside Google all day, you've reduced one layer of profiling while keeping the core pipeline alive. Fourth, audit your extensions. Every extension is another possible leak, another observer in the room. Fifth, if you use Movad browser, understand what it is for. It is not meant to be your cluttered everything browser with 20 custom tweaks and a personalized dashboard. The more you individualize a privacy browser, the more you erode the crowd you were supposed to hide inside. And finally, stop thinking about this as paranoia. This is not paranoia. This is architecture. Your browser decides what the web gets to know about you before you say a single word. It decides how easy you are to follow, how easy you are to fingerprint, how much junk loads with each page, how much profiling friction exists between your life and the systems trying to sort it, score it, and sell against it. That is not a small choice. That is a foundational one. The final reveal here is not that Chrome is evil. It is that most people have mistaken popularity for neutrality. They assumed the biggest browser was simply the default road. But roads are built by someone, maintained by someone, expanded for someone. And once you understand who benefits from that road being crowded, the question changes. Not is Chrome convenient? Of course it is. The real question is this. Convenient for whom? If you want my honest answer after digging through all of this, stop using Chrome unless you absolutely need it for something specific. Use Firefox if you want balance. Use Brave if you want aggressive default protection. Use Mulvad Browser if you want the hardest stance against profiling out of the three. But whatever you choose, choose on purpose, because the browser is no longer just a tool, it is a border. And the people who profit from knowing you are counting on you never noticing where that border really is. If you've already left Chrome, tell me what you switched to. And if you haven't yet, this is your sign to make the cut today. Subscribe if you want more hidden systems like this.